Hello and welcome to my first video chronicling my run through the Regal Draft League. In this video I'm going to go over everybody's teams that they've drafted and give them a little bit of a power ranking. Just for a bit of information, an intro video to our league will be down in the description, but Cliff Notes version, we're going to be doing a VGC Scarlet and Violet Regulation D format tournament, and we've each picked, as you can see up there, 11 different Pokemon, and I'm going to be ranking all of our teams. Up first, and I'm going through them in draft order, the order that we drafted. Except I'm going to be last. I was in the middle. Anyway, up first, I've got the New York Latios. I don't remember. I'm not going to say who's piloting everything. But the one of their biggest threats right here, Fluttermane. Of course, it's big power and such. I'm gonna sort by speed. It is very fast, very high special attack, and pretty good special defense too. And that makes this team immediately very much a threat. Next up is Salamence. Great Intimidate Mon. It gets it's flying type. It gets Tailwind, as you can see down here. What else does it get important over here? It's, either way, it's very powerful and can go physical or special, and it's got some good speed. Honestly, a good pick. Up next, they've got Paldean Tauros, Aqua Breed, the Water Tauros. I don't know what it really does. It has Intimidate, Anger Point's interesting. Cudchew, I actually don't know much about. But we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. Also drafted Tinkaton. They've got that Tinkaton has that Gigaton Hammer, making it kind of scary, but its attack is not that great. It also gets Fake Out. I should put that out here, down here. Fake Out. Also gets Fake Out, and that's very useful in VGC. So yeah. Also looking, their type spread is fairly good. They have good, at least a resistance for each type. It looks like, which is good. It's nice. Looks like they have some good Reflect Light Screen usage. They do have a Clear Smog in Golduck. Golduck seems like it does some interesting stuff. Ting-Lu is going to be good. It's one of our S tiers in the league. All in all, a fairly solid team. I'm going to throw, let's see, New York Latios. We're going to start off with throwing them in the middle. I'm going to be changing this as we go, of course, just to fit everybody in. And these are all of our logos. I'm also going to try to link down in the description any YouTube channels from our league, so you can go check them out. And anyway, we're going to move on next to the Orlando Oshawotts. This is our the owner of our Discord that is piloting the Orlando Oshawotts, if I can say that right. Right off the bat, in DD Armarouge, it's good in VGC. It's a really good core. Armarouge, Assess, Trick Room. They both get... I think they both get Expanding Force, which is a very powerful move. Indeedee gets Follow Me. I didn't put any redirection in here. Indeedee gets Follow Me, which is good redirection. I didn't look at the other guy, the Latios, if they have any redirection. But anyway, let's see. Do they have Fake Out? They do have a Fake Out in Sneasler. Sneasler, I feel like, is gonna be a sleeper pick here for the Orlando Oshawotts. And Crocodile's good Intimidate. They've got that. Frostmoth, I am very interested to see what he'll do with Frostmoth. Mismagius, Levitate. You can do... what is it? Terra Electric Levitate. We are doing Terras. The way that we're doing Terras is we'll have an open... Like, we can pick any Terras, but we have to say, hey, this is what I'm Terra for this guy. So, if I went up against the Orlando Oshawotts, I would know... oh, Mismagius is Terra Electric. I should watch out for that. Looking at moves, they've got some good coverage here. Oh, that's why I didn't put it in here. It's because it isn't in this spreadsheet, and I don't want to go through the trouble of doing that. Torkoal and Lilligant, really, again, a really good core. You get Drought with Torkoal to get Sun Up. Chlorophyll from Hisuian Lilligant makes it go so fast, and then that Victory Dance can set up. It's +1 to attack, defense, and speed, which is really a really solid move. Speaking of dances, I guess Frostmoth gets Quiver Dance, so that's something. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about what Frostmoth does. But yeah, just off the bat, we've got two really good cores and some good supporting stuff. Sneasler has Fake Out. We've got Intimidate here. Sheer Force and Heavy Metal from Caparajo, which is interesting. Dedenne gets the Thunder Wave and Volt Switch. Interesting things. Also get Knockoff from Crocodile. So I think overall, where are we? Orlando Oshawotts, I think are going to go just above the Latios. Because I feel like the small time, the micro or macro, the micro synergies, just these pairs are really good. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Gothenburg Gothitelles. Here is their team. They've got Rillaboom and Inteleon. Interesting. Rillaboom, pretty good. Sets up Grassy Surge for anything. I don't think they ended up getting anything with Unburden. But it sets up the grassy terrain, which gives a little bit of healing each turn, which is good. Mimikyu in Disguise is pretty good. It sets up Trick Room too. Metacham gets Fake Out, if I remember correctly. Alolan Muck is pretty good. Just weak to ground, I believe. Here, where is it? Yeah, its only weakness is ground, which is pretty good for it. Hydreigon and Zapdos, Zapdos has got really good stats all across the board as a legendary, as you'd expect. Also, Hydreigon has great stats. It's got pretty good speed, and it can go either physical or special. It can take some hits. It's a pseudo-legend. It's gonna be good. Heatran here, another legend, pretty good. The Flash Fire, getting the fire immunity here. I think I'm going to put them up as my first top tier. Just because it seems like they've got something going on here. They can run a good Trick Room team, I think. Like they can go for Trick Room, especially Gastrodon, really slow, really can take advantage of Trick Room. So I think, yeah, the Gothitelles are gonna go in the top tier. And I'm gonna move on to the Welsh Woobats. We've got a good amount of our group from the UK. Shout out to them across the pond. Here we've got Tornadus. I was trying to get Tornadus personally. But this person went before me, so I couldn't get it. But that's whatever. They've got Dondozo and Tatsugiri, really good, I think, para Pokemon. They do have a couple of Trick Room setters, and a solid at least 3 Trick Room Mons. You could probably argue Mesprit or Gardevoir, maybe Tatsugiri, but Tatsugiri's kind of edge it on that higher speed tier. They also have Baxcalibur and Abomasnow. Abomasnow, really good with that Snow Warning to set up Snow, boosts its own defense. It also gets Aurora Veil, which is really good. Ice Spinner gets rid of Terrain, which we've seen a couple of times, some Terrain moves. Toxicroak, I think Abomasnow plus Toxicroak is actually a really good pair of guys, because Toxicroak, especially if you've got dry skin, really does not like sun. So if he's going against, for example, the Oshawotts, he ends up bringing Toxicroak. You want to bring Abomasnow to get rid of the sun, because you don't want that Torkoal getting stuff. Jumpluff, it gets Tailwind, it's Chlorophyll. I don't know if there's a Sunsetter on this team. Let's see. Sunny day. Oh, there's a lot of these guys. Oh, of course. Tornadus can set any weather. So Jumpluff in the sun gets Tailwind just like Tornadus. Also gets Rage Powder, I believe, which is pretty good. And then they've got that Mabostiff for the Intimidate, which is, I think, a solid crew. And where were we here? Having that Dozo, the Tatsugiri Dondozo, that core is just gonna immediately put it in with the higher tiers. I think it goes just below here. Was it here? Hold on. I might have my stuff screwed up. Oh, I think I have my stuff mixed up. I'm doing this. This is what I wanted, I think, as my tiers. I think Welsh Woobats go just under the Oshawotts here. They're solid, very solid. Just having, where are we? Just having the Tatsudozo, and then a very solid group of Pokemon. They've got Tornadus. They've got Jumpluff, I think, is really good and underrated in VGC, especially Regulation D, because of the Tailwind and Rage Powder. Anyway, moving on, another Lati lover, the LA Latias. Immediately right off the bat, we've got Pincurchin with Electric Surge, and then 3 future Paradox Pokemon with that Quark Drive ability. I'm really, really hoping that they do something. Yeah. Sorry, going back a second to the Welsh Woobats. One reason that I'm putting them, they're probably going to end up the bottom of our top tier here, is the type effectiveness, and they have, it looks like, at least one answer in their team for each of the different types. But there is such a glaring weakness to Bug, Rock. I can see doing a lot to them with 1 resistance in Toxicroak, which is not that bulky to begin with. You know what? I'm going to put them here instead of up at the top tier. I might change that back again. The dragon types, they've got 2 dragon types in Tatsugiri and Baxcalibur, but I just think that all of these types being so weak to, like, Fairy, they don't have a Fairy resist, which might be kind of scary for them, especially up against that one team, the New York Latios, I think, that got Fluttermane, which, and even here, yeah, and even here, Mimikyu, really strong, hard hitter. Believe it or not, with Play Rough, it just hits so hard, and then Dedenne, I guess, isn't so good, but even in this format, you can bring a Terra Fairy Pokemon, and he isn't going to have any resistances. Of course, there is you can Terrastalize, so I think they might be okay, but still going with that mid-tier. Now back to LA Latias, looking at types again, they are really solid across the board. A couple that they're a bit a bit lacking on resistances, but that's okay. They've got some. They've got a couple electric immunities. Ice, they'll probably be fine. And then the rock, it looks like it's a solid squad. A couple of overlapping types, but not glaringly. They've got 2 water types, Iron Bundle and Quillfish. They do have that Intimidate, which is good. And then I was looking at Noivern personally. I believe it gets Tailwind. Yes, it gets Tailwind. The Infiltrator is interesting. Telepathy protects itself from its partner's moves, so if it's next to say you're running, for whatever reason, a special Iron Hands, or Pincurchin wants to discharge next to Noivern, it can do that freely, and Noivern won't get hurt. So I think it's a solid squad overall. LA Latias, I think, is gonna go just low of the top tier. Up next, we've got the Durham Dragalge. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Too bad. They've got the Dragalge, of course, but King Gambit, very strong Pokemon. Got that Supreme Overlord if you want. Defiant, up against an Intimidate. is good because you get the -1 from Intimidate, then you get a +1 from +2 from Defiant, ending up at a +1. Have we seen any not fully evolved Pokemon yet? That's interesting. I guess this is the first time I'll talk about it. Here we've got Vigoroth with the Vital Spirit. It cannot be put to sleep, which is kind of good here, because there are multiple Pokemon that want to put you to sleep. And then it can run a fairly bulky set with Eviolite, and it's got pretty alright stats across the board. Special defense is a little lacking, but that's alright. You can switch it out. Again, we're seeing this weakness to Fairy with only a single resistance. I think that's interesting to point out. Because of the prevalence of Fairy in the overall Reg D meta, specifically Fluttermane, though. But that's fine. We've got Tyranitar to set up Sandstream. We've got a couple immunities to it, with Toedscruel and Kingambit getting not phased by that Sandstream. Which, this might just be a pick to stop somebody else from having Sandstream. Or it's just there. They've got good fire coverage with Rotom Heat. One thing to notice, they have 3 Dark types, which is interesting, making them a little bit weak to fighting. But I think they've covered that back again, especially Sableye having a Ghost type. Speaking of Sableye, he's got Prankster, he gets Quash, he gets a couple of other good moves. He gets Taunt, which is good to stop opposing. You can stop opposing Trick Room, opposing Tailwinds, just other status moves. It is a fairly low speed, so say up against the one team with Tornadus, that might be a bit of a detriment, because you might not be able to taunt the Tornadus out of using Tailwind, which I think is fine. Overall, I think I'm gonna put the Durham... Where are they? Did I not get Durham Dragalge? I know I've got it. Here we go. Overall, I'm gonna put them just under the Welsh Woobats. I think they're a solid team, but there's just a couple of things I feel like are lacking. The Fairy weakness. I guess they do have fairly good physical and special, so they aren't gonna get heavily walled by anything specific. Physical versus special. But I think overall they're going to be a high mid-tier. Up next we've got the Skystrikers. Immediately Grimmsnarl gets Prankster, it gets Taunt, I believe, it gets that Parting Shot, which is pretty good. It lowers, I believe, attack and special attack, and then switches out, which is fairly good. It can set up both screens over here. They have a couple of good screen setters, actually. The Sandy Shocks, the Espathra, also a bit of an off pick, but I dig it, honestly. The Opportunist to possibly up against an opposing setup Mon. You get speed boost, maybe go behind a substitute if it does. I don't know. If Espathra gets substitute, which I'm pretty sure it does. We see another Levitate Mon, which can do that Terra Electric, and then you have no weakness except for Mold Breaker Earthquake, which is not very common. They've got the Cinderace with Libero, very interesting, I think fairly good in this format. And then they've got this Hisuian Decidueye. As you might be able to see, not a lot of good things against Ghost, except for the Dark on Grimmsnarl, but Grimmsnarl doesn't do a lot of attacking. But Decidueye being able to use its fighting type attacks against opposing Ghosts. I guess they do have Misdreavus, which is, I believe, slow enough that you could run Trick Room. It gets Trick Room. The Ursaluna, very scary with the Guts in Trick Room, very scary. I am interested to see what they do with Ursaluna and the rest of the squad. But overall, I feel like there's a lot lacking. In personal opinion, I might be missing something. But I am going to put the Skystrikers as my first low tier. I just think that there is a lot lacking. I mean, there is the Hisuian Goodra. There's some solid Trick Room potential here. I hope I'm proven wrong and they get to go fairly high and do really well. But I'm not really counting on it. Now on to the Indianapolis Mudbrays. Here we've got I'd say a solid squad. Honchkrow, interesting pick. Gets Insomnia so it doesn't fall asleep. Superlock, I believe, increases crit rate. Moxie is what I would personally run. And then it gets Tailwind. But I'd rather have that on Volcarona. Volcarona, I think, is a really good pick. It gets the Tailwind. It has Rage Powder. It can be really bulky. Even defensively bulky. I think Volcarona is a really good pick here. Dragonite, again, really good. Honestly, in current meta, I feel like Dragonite's only really good next to Chien-Pao, but I think it's probably good in its own right. It gets Ice Spinner to get rid of the terrains, Reflect and Light Screen, but I'm not going to focus too much on that. It does get Haze, as well as Honchkrow. He's got some good Thunder Wave, speed control. He's got the Static and the Lightning Rod. The Raichu, I think, is a pretty good pick. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put these guys, the Indianapolis Mudbrays, I'm going to put them right in the middle. I think they're fairly middle of the pack from what I'm seeing. So I'm going to put them there. Up next, we've got the Denver Darkrai. Love Darkrai as a Pokemon. Just as a side note, but we've got Landorus Therian. Got that Intimidate from Landorus. It's pretty good. They've got Pelipper, set up the Rain. It also gets Trick Room. You can run Rain Dish as a water immunity, which I think is really interesting. But it is mostly there for Drizzle. Slowking, another good mod. It gets Regenerator and a move exclusive to it and its Galarian counterpart, Chilly Reception, which sets up Snow and then you switch out. And then you've got Articuno that can get Snow Cloak, which raises evasion, which I'm a little bit scared to go up against that, personally, like I would be. I've also got that Palafin, solid pick. in my opinion. It's a good water type, really some good synergy with Pelipper. It really loves the rain. Make its moves hit that much harder, gets the flip turn to switch itself out. It's got Magnezone. Magnezone gets some good stuff. Magnet Pull to keep other opposing steel types in. Maybe run it next to Flareon or Lucario, just to get that good damage in on opposing steel types. If there is a Gholdengo, but I'm not sure. I know there are other steel types in the format. Even Palmot next to Magnezone versus that Kingambit we saw is an interesting pair, because I think Palmot and Magnezone could probably do some good walling versus Kingambit. Although Kingambit does get some fighting type moves, if I remember correctly. It'll be to be seen. Infiltrator on Spiritomb, I like, just personally. You've got that second Intimidator from Overquill. Maybe open both of them and just get that double Intimidate. I think would be interesting. Yeah, I think this is a fairly solid squad. Definitely gonna go up in the top tier. It might be fairly low. I am inclined to put it there, just above the LA Latias. Up next, we've got the Golden Gate Gholdengo, hailing from, where is that, San Francisco? I don't know, I'm uncultured. Something that I wanted to personally point out is since they've got the Gothitelles gets Shadow Tag, there is some precedent for running Perish Trap. It's an interesting idea, I think. Let's see. Let's show you. Azumarill gets Perish Song, and that they have. I wonder if Klefki, maybe? No. But Azumarill gets Perish Song. So I am interested to see. I want to see some Perish Trap out of this. They've got Fungus, basically a slightly worse Amoonguss, but it's still solid. It gets the Regenerator. It can take a couple hits. Maybe run Eviolite. Could be good on Fungus. Give it that little bit of extra bulk. But mostly it gets the Rage Powder. It gets Spore, which is really good. You've got Intimidate on Masquerain. One thing to point out, Shanpao with that Sword of Ruin lowering everybody's defenses. It's a really solid ability. It's really up there. Iron Valiant can run a physical set. Dragapult gets Dragapult also good physical attack. Let's see, Scizor. Scizor's a 130 physical attack. You get maybe run a Trick Room team with maybe these bottom 6. Plus, or maybe like the bottom 5 plus Shenpao as a real, or just like you can run a good Trick Rooms team and Shenpao doesn't have to go fast. It can do some good stuff. It gets Sucker Punch as well. But yeah, I think a Perish Trap with these two, the Shenpao makes it a really big. This, honestly, I think is a really good squad. Another thing to point out, Colossal. You've got a couple of Pokemon that can learn Surf to proc that Steam Engine. Or you could run Flash Fire, and it's just immune to fire moves. You switch it into replace Scizor, and it gets that Flash Fire boost. Just the thing to think about. So overall, I think they're gonna go. I think they're gonna go just above. I think we go like this. I kind of feels bad to put both Latios teams in the low tier because I personally love Latios. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Down Under Drop Bears, which is going to be my first match. What is this? What is this? Whatever. Anyway, you've got that Prankster Thunderous. It also gets Defiant to go up against Intimidators. You've got Garchomp, Sandvale. Does anything get Sandstorm is something to think about. Garchomp can set it up for itself. Quagsire can set up the sand. And you've got Revavroom here that can also do that. Overcoat, I believe, makes Spore and those types of moves not have any effect. We've also got Hisuian Zoroark. It's an alright pick, in my opinion. It can trip up your opponent. Let's look at... I mean, I haven't looked personally at its moveset, but the typing's pretty good. You've got that illusion to possibly trip up your opponent, but you're gonna know that it's coming, which is, I think, is okay. You've got a pretty solid special attack on there. I think it's interesting. You've got at least one of every immunity, which is pretty solid. You're not weak to Fairy. You're not really weak to anything in particular, except maybe Flying, but you've got a couple of resists in there. The Thunderous and the Revavroom resisting Flying. I think it's solid. Other than your Flying types, there's a couple of weaknesses. That 4 times from Revavroom, but say it runs Air Balloon, now it doesn't take damage from ground type moves. I think it's solid. But overall, I feel like there's some lack here. Contrary and Amorous could be interesting. I feel like there's good parts, but it could be better. So I'm gonna put them right here. Still a threat, and I will be facing them first in week 1. That video to be is probably gonna be the next thing up on the channel. Up next, we've got Newcastle Nedokings. Another one of my favorite Pokemon is Nidoking. Honestly, all of the teams, great mascots. Anyway, we've got the Roaring Moon. Insane stat spread. Honestly, it's the highest HP of his team, which is interesting. It's very high attack stat. And then the Photosynthesis. Maybe give it the, what is it, the booster energy. It hits so hard, and it's fairly fast. Another thing, Electrode, Hisuian Electrode, Aftermath. I like Aftermath on Hisuian Electrode. Looking here at the type coverage. Oh, excuse me. Looking at the type coverage, I think they're pretty solid. A little bit weak to Fairy, but I think they'll be fine. A little bit weak to ground, but a couple of immunities. I think they'll be fine. The immunities here, Bronzong with Levitate. Bronzong, phenomenal in my opinion. You take Levitate, you're immune to ground attacks. You can set up Trick Room. Another thing to look at is you've got a solid Trick Room core here in the Hatterene, which I think it can hit pretty hard with that 136 special attack. And then the Bronzong, really good wall. I think it's got its defenses are so high. HP could be better, but I think it's fine. You've got that Ursaring. Ursaluna is a huge threat, and this could just be better. Let's look at it. You could even run, say, Will-O-Wisp on one of your Pokemon, and side target the Ursaring with Will-O-Wisp, and then run Eviolite. I love Eviolite, by the way. Run Eviolite on Ursaring, and then Eviolite Guts side Will-O-Wisp with maybe Chi-Yu or Ceruledge, and then you've got that Guts, you've got that Facade, which is a really good attack. But yeah, I think it's a solid squad. It's gonna go... What is it? It's the Newcastle Nedokings. It's a solid squad. You've got Primate, which is a fighting type. Help with maybe dark weaknesses. I don't think there's a lot of glaring dark weaknesses, but if somebody really wants to bring dark types, it's pretty good. Chi-Yu, I believe, lowers... I think it's special defense. The Beads of Ruin ability. I'd have to look that up. You know what? I'm gonna... Beads of Ruin. Here we go. Cerebi. Yeah, it lowers the special defense of everything except itself. And that's a pretty solid ability. Especially, I think they've got some really solid special attackers. Hatterene, Chi-Yu itself, really good. Just like those two next to each other, maybe. Got a couple of good Tailwind setters. I think it's a pretty solid team. I'm going to place them at a solid high in the mid tier. And last but not least, for my competitors, the Sandaconda Squad. And I think it's a pretty alright team. Basket Legion. Let's look at what's the Rain Dance? Let's look at Rain Dance. There's so many Rain Dance setters that you could run next to Basket Legion to get that Swift Swim. Or the adaptability to just boost its stabs. Mold Breaker, I don't know if it gets Earthquake or any good ground move, but Mold Breaker is good, hitting through abilities that would otherwise make them immune. You've got Grafaiai and Slacking, which is honestly really scary. Slacking has insane attack and really good speed, and Grafaiai gets that ability that I believe it copies the ability of both opponents onto, or of one of the opponents onto both of your Pokemon on your side. So you've got Grafaiai next to Slacking, you copy just anything other than Truant, and you are really solid. I think it's I don't remember what the move is called. And you can do that with Prankster. And Grafaiai also gets the taunt. I can U-turn. I think Grafaiai is a pretty solid addition, even without Slacking. I think it's pretty good. You've got that Sandaconda. Can set up Sand if you really don't want the opposing weather. There isn't much use, but you've got Shed Skin. I think it's a chance to remove your status, which I think is pretty good. You've got Electros without a weakness with that Levitate. Solidmon, it's got good stats. It's got a solid physical attack. It's kind of slow. You can run it in Trick Room. Probably this Galarian Articuno as your Trick Room setter. Carbink gets Ally Switch, which is interesting. Something to look at. That I should have looked up before. Does it have any priority in Gen 9? Let's see. It does have some priority, so you can Ally Switch. You've got some screens. You don't have Clear Smog or Haze, not something that I've looked at. You've got some Thunder Wave. Slacking gets Thunder Wave. That's interesting. Again, the parting shot, the prankster parting shot from Grafai could be kind of scary. I think there. And then you've got the Intimidate on Hisuian Arcanine. It also gets Flash Fire and Rockhead. I really like the concept of Rockhead, but from what I remember, there aren't a lot of good Rockhead users. Hisuian Arcanine could be really good as a Rockhead user, but I think 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have Intimidate, just because Intimidate is so useful. Venomoth also of note is Venomoth, which gets Rage Powder for redirection. If you don't want, say, Spore, I think what does Shield Dust do? Shield Dust. What does Shield Dust do? Blocks additional effects of attacks. That's interesting. Tinted Lens and Wonder Skin, I don't know anything about. Makes status move more likely to miss. You could say, I mean, just putting it out there, safety goggles, and then you do the Rage Powder, get hit with Spore, or you just take the 50-50 on Spore to hit instead of it guaranteeing to hit on your partner. Overall, I think I don't know a lot about Glastrier. Apparently gets taunt. It's got solid attack. He does have. They do have. I don't remember gender pronouns of everybody. They have a couple of alright special attackers. They've got Slacking, Glastrier. Arcanine, I think, can do some really good work as just a physical attacker, even with Intimidate. I want to see Rockhead with, what is it, the move, the big hit fire move that does recoil. I don't remember the name. I think it gets a rock move that does recoil too. So I really want Arcanine to, I want to see Arcanine do well. But just overall overlook of the team without going into calcs, I think I'm going to put them just above the Down Under Drop Bears. And last but not least is myself, my own team, the Blazing Brelooms. Of course I have Breloom. I think I've got a fairly solid squad, but I also think that, say the Orlando Osh. Did I really put them at the top? Let's go through this again. I might have to redo these rankings a little bit. I think. What about the Latias? they've got that Pincurchin and the Electric Surge synergy. But I think just these pairs of Pokemon are just really scary. Anyway, back to my own team. I think it's a solid squad. I can do some stuff with Galarian Slowking. Of course, I'm not gonna reveal my secrets because I know people in the league are gonna be watching this video. So I'm not gonna reveal my secrets. Of course, Galarian Slowking gets Regenerator, gets that Chilly Reception, set up Snow. Beartic's a Pokemon. I got Cresselia and Hariyama. I think they're really good in Trick Room. I feel like I can do a bit of a Trick Room way to do it. I've got that Cresselia. The Beartic, fairly slow, or it can be really fast with that Slush Rush. I think Breloom is so slept on in every meta. It's not great, I will say that, it's not great, but I think it gets slept on so hard. Also have Talonflame, gets the Gale Wings Tailwind for that priority Tailwind. I think it's pretty good. Bisharp is here. I can make him a pretty bulky Steel type with solid attack. I think I have a pretty solid team, but I'm not gonna put myself up at the top. I think I'm gonna do this as my ranking. Obviously, I'm not super knowledgeable about VGC, but this is where I think everybody stands in the league. Let me know in the comments if you think otherwise, because I want to see if anybody outside of the league has any other ideas of like what you guys think is better. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there for this video. I hope to see you next time, next week, whenever I post my first match going up against the Down Under Drop Bears. I'm really excited to get up against them, and I hope you guys enjoy it.